develop legislations to protect marine life.
One person killed in renewed clashes in Alavanyo.
Hello, it's time for News Hour live on GBC24 and GTV. Good evening and you're welcome. My name is Suyokwo Kwakuchre.
And my name is Evans Echampon. And in the studio to help with the sign language interpretation is Clement Sam. Now to our first story. Maritime industry experts are calling on West African countries to develop and enforce legislations to protect maritime life and resources across the sub-region.
The Ghana Maritime Authority, with support from the International Maritime Organization, IMO, is leading the drive to protect the oceans and stop the indiscriminate dumping of waste into the sea. Participants from 9 countries are attending a 5-day workshop in Accra to chart the way forward.
For years, the world's oceans were used as a dumping ground for waste generated by humans, with little thought to the consequences. It is estimated that dumping of waste at sea today contributes a potential 10% of the overall input of pollutants into the sea, threatening marine life and endangering the environment. In Accra, for example, pollution of the sea with solid and liquid waste is evident at some beaches. As part of efforts to find lasting solutions to the problem, maritime experts, stakeholders and government organizations are meeting in Accra for 5 days to study different conventions, treaties and guidelines on the subject. The delegate will study the 1996 London Protocol on the prevention of marine pollution by dumping of waste and other matter, the 2001 International Convention on the Control of Harmful Anti-Fouling Systems on Ships, and also the guidelines for the control and management of ships by fouling to minimize the transfer of invasive aquatic species.
In the past 2 years, the global community has shown true determination to protect our ocean by adopting, as part of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, a goal for the oceans called the Sustainable Development Goal 14 to conserve and sustainably use the ocean, seas and marine resources for sustainable development. So we have, together, as a global community, set ourselves a challenge to save the oceans, and to meet these challenges, you need to understand all the relevant international tools available and how to apply and enforce these domestically.
The Director General of the Ghana Maritime Authority, Mr. Kwame Owusu, was hopeful that the workshop would give participants a chance to acquire requisite knowledge needed to prevent marine pollution.
A clean marine environment has a key role in achieving sustainable development and prosperity. Our decision to lend our support to the efforts of the international maritime community in this respect is informed by the fact that over 70% of our planet is covered by oceans, which transcends across nations and connect us all together. It is therefore important to harness the resources of the oceans for sustainable development, which is aimed at meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs.
The Minister of Transport, Mr. Kweku Ofori Esiama, said the best way to save the world's coastal waters from further deterioration is for countries to implement global instruments and enforce the requisite regulations.
Ghana has ratified the 1996 Protocol to the London Convention and has already incorporated its provisions into the Maritime Pollution Act. I wish to assure you of Ghana's commitment to the global effort towards the protection of marine environment from pollution. Let me take this opportunity to urge countries that have not yet ratified or acceded to this international convention to take urgent steps to do so, and also implement these conventions by incorporating their provisions into the national legislation to provide the requisite legal framework for enforcement.
9 countries are participating in the 5-day forum: Ghana, Cape Verde, Equatorial Guinea, the Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Nigeria, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Sao Tome and Principe. Thelmataki, GBC24, Accra.
Now, ECOWAS kicks against inferior goods dumped in the sub-region. It's equally true that ECOWAS measures itself against acceptable standards. ECOWAS and the African Organization for Standardization, ASO, have urged the production base of West Africa to do introspection and ensure that its efforts make the grade.
Standardization is the process of making things conform to a certain standard acceptable to all. For a long time, Africans did not deem it necessary to either standardize or harmonize the quality and services it provided. It was not until 1977 that the Organization of African Unity, now AU, founded the African Organization for Standardization, ARSO. Since its formation, ARSO has made strides in the area of building and construction. It has ensured that goods manufactured on the continent meet the best standards. Other functions are not only to encourage and facilitate adoption of international standards by member countries, but promote and exchange experts and information among others. A technical director of ARSO, Mr. Ruben Gisori, said the formation of ARSO has been worthwhile, explaining that new buildings in Africa and those on other continents are seamless.
We need to continue improving the skills. We need to use the materials that are important for doing that. It is not that we don't have the materials in Africa. When you walk around, you see all the materials that you need.
The representative of ECOWAS Commission, Mensan Lawson Hecheli, said ECOWAS applies itself to international standards and believes individual members of the sub-regional body have the capacity to meet expectations.
We also are close to finalize the West African quality infrastructure, which will deal not only with standardization, but also with metrology, with certification, with accreditation, and conformity assessment, all the pillars of the quality.
Mr. Kofi Nagate of the Ghana Standards Authority noted that government plays up standards in all its undertakings, including the one district, one factory policy.
Ghana is also playing a very important role in the ECOWAS harmonization of standards. The Ghana Standards Authority is very much involved in this harmonization. And the government believes that if this is done, the aim of ECOWAS of bringing ECOWAS together in trade, investment, and services will be accomplished.
At the end of the three-day workshop in Accra, participants will be expected to iron out some of the challenges restraining Africa from meeting set standards.
A 12-member delegation from Kenya's Judicial Committee on Election has paid a courtesy call on the justices of the Supreme Court. The committee's visit is part of a tour of selected countries to gain apt knowledge and insights in the handling of election disputes. Kenyans will go to the polls on 8th August this year until the 2008 election disputes, which claimed thousands of lives. Kenya was one of the peaceful countries in Africa with strong democratic credentials.
Kenya had independence in 1964, and it was one of the few countries in Africa which never experienced coup d'etat. The dividend Kenya derived from the political stability were in several areas, including its tourism sector, which became a magnet attracting over 1 million tourists annually. Earnings from the tourism sector in 2012 was put at $1.2 billion. However, the 2008 election dispute exposed cracks in the country, thus denting the image Kenya has carved for herself as one of Africa's beacon of democracy. Thankfully, the 2012 election went on peacefully, but analysts say the real test will be in the upcoming election on August 8 this year. And to avoid repetition of the election violence, a 12-member of Kenya's Judicial Election Committee are in Ghana to exchange ideas about election dispute. They first called on the outgoing Chief Justice, Mrs. Justice Georgina Thodora Wood, in her office. Afterward, they had an interactive session with some justices of Ghana's Supreme Court. Kenya's Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mulu was hopeful that the deliberations with their Ghanaian counterpart will help in their work as the country prepares for the 2017 elections.
The presiding judge of the 2012 election petition in Ghana, Mr. Justice William Atuguba, spoke about the relevance of Ghana's election adjudication manual, which was first introduced in 2008, restructured in 2012, and the recent improved version.
The principles we used to decide that election petition, and which we'll continue to use, are just the same as what your court decided. And election dispute rules, I think, are broadly similar in the common law world, at least. The broad principle, as we know, whether it's in Canada, South Africa, Australia, anything, is that technicality should not prevail. It's the substance of the matter. There will be infractions. It's a human, undertaking. And unless the infraction is fundamental and constitutionally incurable, the essence of the matter is the franchise of the people, the right of the people. It's a sovereign right. The people are the source of sovereignty in the state, and it is through the ballot that they exercise and practicalize their sovereignty in the state.
The delegation from the Judicial Committee on Elections in Kenya would be meeting the Political Parties Liaison Committee, the Electoral Commission, and civil society organizations and election observers. In January this year, the opposition parties in Kenya launched a national super alliance aimed at defeating President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Jubilee Party in the general election in August this year. For GBC24, Ofoyiwa Dakon reporting.
Now, a middle-aged woman, Madam Elizabeth Ankun, was shot dead at Alavanyo Peme in the Volta region in a suspected reprisal attack in a renewed conflict between the people of Nkonya and Alavanyo. The incident occurred in the early hours of Saturday at the outskirts of the town.
Madame Elizabeth Anku was reportedly on her way to pick mangoes about 100 meters away from her house when she was shot by unknown assailants. The two neighboring communities have been at each other's throats for 90 years over a parcel of fertile arable land. Several appeals and interventions by the government, religious organization and the traditional authorities to resolve the issue has proved futile. A few weeks ago, a 15-year-old boy was killed by some unidentified gunmen who invaded Deme, one of the communities in Alavanyo. The recent attack on the lady is said to have happened on the blind side of the security personnel. No arrest has been made so far. The Volta Regional Minister, Dr. Archibald Lecha, said the situation is under control and security has been beefed up to forestall further attacks.
The Forestry Commission Ladies Association, FOLAS, in collaboration with GBC Ladies of Sunrise FM in the Eastern region, have joined the fight against Galamsey. The ladies were in Chebi, one of the areas described as the headquarters of Galamsey, to sensitize the public on the need to halt the illegal mining activities.
The ladies joined about 200 students from basic to senior high schools on the procession, waving placards with inscriptions such as "Stop Galamsey," "Bring Back Our Forest and Cocoa Farms," as well as "Save a Life." They paraded the main streets of Chebi in the East Achim municipality, finally converging on the auditorium of the Presby Church. The schools which took part in this exercise included Chebi Sectec, Chebi MA Experimental, Aquadum Roman Catholic, and Abansi Presby. Mr. John Osafo of the Municipal Directorate of Education said the Galamsey menace has worsened at Chebi, adding that the impact has been enormous as the trade attracts school children and lead most of them astray. He observed that the environment has been degraded to the barest form as water bodies have been heavily polluted, especially the Birim River. He was therefore grateful to the ladies for organizing such a program to register their displeasure. The Assistant Regional Manager of Forest Service Division, Mr. Bright Howard, said the rate at which the forest is being degraded is very alarming. The Principal Program Officer of EPA, Madam Jamila Tuyaro, took the people through the procedure for acquiring licenses to operate a mine. She explained that there are laws that back applicants. Chebihene Osaberma Bwache Dankwa Chirikwe observed that the chemical used by small-scale miners affect water and food and consequently the health of the people in the area.
Still to come, the Bank of Ghana reduces the monetary policy rates for the third consecutive time in 6 months. And in the arts and entertainment segment, the School of Performing Arts organizes this year's short film screenings. We'll be right back. Please stay on. Hello, good evening, and good to have you join us for some business updates. I am Dorothy Ajimai, and this segment is brought to you by NIB and Ernest Chemist. The Bank of Ghana has reduced the monetary policy rate for the third consecutive time in 6 months. It dropped from 23.5 to 22.5%. The governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, attributed the reduction to low inflation risk and a fairly stable cedi.
Rate in the past 6 months has been dropping consistently after it hit its highest mark of 26% in recent years. The rate in March 2017 saw one of its biggest cuts by 200 basis points from 25.5% to 23.5%. The central bank at that time attributed the drop to favorable economic conditions in the country and the stability of the cedi against its trading partners. The latest 100 basis point cut from 23.5% to 22.5% is the third time.
With a stable outlook for exchange rate movements and return to the path of fiscal consolidation, headline inflation is expected to trend towards the medium-term target in 2018, barring any unanticipated shocks. Given these considerations, the committee judged that the downside risks to growth outweigh the upside risks to inflation in the outlook, and therefore decided to reduce the policy rate by 100 basis points to 22.5%.
The country's total public debt at the end of March 2017 stood at 127.1 billion Ghana cedis, representing 62.5% of GDP.
The stock of domestic debt, which was 53.4 billion at the end of 2016, increased to 55.2 billion at the end of March 2017. External debt increased from 69.2 billion at the end of December 2016 to 71.9 billion over the same period. This brings the total public debt at the end of March to 127.1 billion, up from 122.6 billion at the end of 2016. Gross international reserves increased to $6.4 billion, equivalent to 3.7 months of import cover at the end of April 2017, from 4.9 billion, that is 2.8 months of import cover at the end of 2016.
Dr. Addison said the Monetary Policy Committee will continue to monitor risk and take the necessary policy action to move headline inflation towards the medium-term target of 8- or +2.
The Minister for Trade and Industry, Mr. Alan Chermatin, has revealed that more than 150 individuals and entities have submitted proposals to his office to construct factories under the One District, One Factory policy. Speaking at the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce Forum on the One District, One Factory program in Accra, Mr. Chermatin said at least 3 projects in each district across the country have been identified. He said by October, the program would have taken off.
The One District, One Factory is one of the flagship policies of the MPP administration. The project is expected to take off in all districts across the country. The government has already allocated 456 million Ghana cedis to facilitate the smooth takeoff of the One District, One Factory policy. According to the Trade Ministry, the construction of the first batch of factories is expected to commence in the fourth quarter of 2017. The core feature of the One District, One Factory policy is to have the private sector drive the entire program. Ahead of the takeoff of the program, the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry is engaging policymakers and stakeholders to deliberate on the support government can offer to enable private sector play its role effectively. According to the Chamber, the One District, One Factory policy has the potential to industrialize the country, therefore positioning the private sector strategically to play its role smoothly. The president of the Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry is Nana Apieje Dankauso.
I want to inform the business community and interested organizations that the Chamber has started working intensively in mobilizing information for selected industries with agriculture and agribusiness on top of the pecking order for value chain analysis and development. This is obviously in relation to the One District, One Factory policy, and the Chamber is seeking collaboration with governments, local and international partners in undertaking the necessary research.
The Minister for Trade and Industry, Mr. Alan Chamantin, said all the necessary steps have been taken for the program to commence.
This is not an old program, and in the last MPP administration, when it was first introduced, we had the opportunity of identifying over 300 potential projects. 300 potential projects for all the districts. And so I would say that we already have gone about 50% of the work has been done.
He said both local and foreign investors have expressed commitment in the policy, and government will work to create the right environment for the establishment of these factories.
The introduction of this policy initiative has already received enthusiastic response from the business and investor community, both local and international. As of last Friday, the ministry had received over 150 proposals, including business plans, feasibility studies, and expression of interest from various parts of the country and covering varied economic interests, even though the program has not been formally launched. So, as is always the case, what the government needs to do is to provide direction, and the business community will always respond. I think this is what we are seeing.
The Trade and Industry Minister, Mr. Alan Chamantin, assured the private sector that government will not compete with them and their investment will be protected. But in a situation where they will need support, government will assist them up to 30% of the capitalization of the business.
And to the Eastern region, where the Acting Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, Mr. Emmanuel Kofinti, says the GRA has collected total tax revenue of 7,396.07 Ghana cedis this year. The first quarter collection showed a nominal growth of 17% and real growth of 3.5% over the same period of last year.
The 2017 Management and First Quarterly Retreat was attended by the top management staff as well as project managers working on various modernization initiatives. The 3 days retreat provided the platform for GRA to review its performance and deliberate on action plans to improve upon its operations, including revenue mobilization, and re-examine the GRA organogram to create room for upward mobility of staff. New innovative systems, procedures, processes, mode and methods of collection and substantial increase of revenue were also high on the agenda. The Commissioner General, Mr. Emmanuel Kofinti, said as part of its efforts to increase revenue mobilization quarterly, retreats will be held instead of mid-year.
I wish to see a complete change in our attitude to work. For example, I have observed that the culture of reporting to work at 8 a.m. and closing at 5 p.m. seems not to be strictly followed, with staff leaving the office before closing time. We therefore need to improve on our punctuality and our work culture.
A Deputy Finance Minister, Mr. Kweku Kwating, urged the staff of GRA to help in deploying strategies being rolled out by the government to scale up revenue mobilization.
taxes that hinder the growth of the economy have been removed. What we are left with are taxes that must be collected to do the things we want to do. If we fail in this, the 2017 budget statement will fail. Government will not sit down for the target to fail.
A representative of the Omahini of New Drabin traditional area, Berima Kwejo Asari Ochri Oreko, described the various tax reliefs introduced by the government in the 2017 budget as progressive.
Building the economy is not all about accumulation of revenue, but also the opportunity given to citizens to build on their companies and enterprises. To this end, it is my prayer that in the coming years, more of such gestures will come from government, since a strong local economy feeds into a strong national economy.
You're watching News Hour, and this is the business segment. On the interbank market, the cedi stabilized against the pound sterling at 5 cedis 53 pesos. It held its own against the US dollar, with its value at 4 cedis 25 pesos. Compared to the euro, it lost 3 pesos to close trading at 4 cedis 75 pesos. The price of light crude on the commodities market surged up by 41 cents to close trading at $50.74 per barrel. Price of cocoa also increased by $18 to close trading at $2,046 per ton. Gold price fell by 70 cents, 60 cents and is going for $1,252 an ounce. And that's it for the business segment, brought to you by NIB and Ernest Chemist. Coming up is the health segment. Please do stay.
Time for the health segment, brought to you by FPAC and Yamvita. The National Health Insurance Authority says it hopes to strengthen its legal unit with full autonomy from the Attorney General to prosecute defaulters of the scheme. The move is intended to rid the scheme of corruption, which over the years has bedeviled the authority, thereby affecting quality healthcare delivery. A report by Sarah Ofori.
In attaining its universal healthcare mandate, the National Health Insurance Scheme has enrolled over 11.3 million subscribers. Yet, over the years, the scheme's sources of funding have been limited. Service providers still have arrears to claim, compromising on services delivered to subscribers. It appears neither the e-claims payment system nor the biometric registration have rid the scheme of corruption. At a deba held for staff nationwide, the Deputy Minister for Health, Mr. Kingsley Abuaji-Jedu, said it is the desire of President Akufo-Addo to see the scheme prosper rather than decline to cash and carry system. The Chief Executive of the National Health Insurance Authority, Dr. Samuel Ano, revealed that the scheme has no reserves, although their ideal situation should have been 3 to 6 months of reserves.
As a nation, we lost sight of the fact that as more members came on the scheme, the sources of funding, which was relatively fixed and not growing as fast as the members were joining, will not be enough to cater for the membership drive. And because we did not focus on the sources of funding properly, that is why we are in this situation where you have a scheme which has no reserves, which in an insurance scheme required by law to have at least about 3 to 6 months reserves. And apart from not having reserves, it so owes greatly to service providers.
To ensure that every citizen is covered by the scheme, management says it will strive to explore other sources of funding to expand the scheme further. Dr. Samuel pointed out that it is time for citizens to be empowered to own the scheme by being transparent and accountable.
We'll be looking for changing the law to make it punishable by setting minimum level of imprisonment apart from the increase in fines. We'll be looking forward to changing or strengthening our legal department and getting some autonomy from the Attorney General so that they will be allowed to prosecute and fast-track investigations.
3 deputy chief executives of the authority were introduced to the staff. Dr. Lydia Babajani Selby, in charge of operations, Ya Poko Abaden, administration and human resource, as well as Francis Owusu, in charge of finance and investment. They affirmed their commitment to sustain the scheme.
It cannot be acceptable that holders of our NHI's card are still demeaned at our health facilities when they present their cards to access health care. The lack of logistics such as vehicles to carry out critical assignments is a worry. The inadequate built infrastructure of the authority has resulted in many rented office accommodations costing the authority a fortune.
2 outgoing executives were honored for their tenure in office. In an interview with GBC24, the chief executive, Dr. Samuel Ano, disclosed that the nationwide implementation of the NHIS capitation, currently operating in 4 out of the 10 regions, has been suspended due to problems yet to be resolved. Cyril Fori, GBC24, Accra.
Preeclampsia is a medical terminology that would appear strange to the lay community. The first line of people likely to understand this medical vocabulary should be women because it describes an aspect of their health. Eclampsia simply refers to complications which could cause death in women during childbirth. Dr. Linda Van Otu has a few medical tips on the subject.
Preeclampsia is a serious condition related to high blood pressure that pregnant women can develop. This condition usually occurs during 6 months of pregnancy or after delivery. A report by the WHO says preeclampsia affects 10% of pregnancies worldwide and is the leading cause of maternal and infant illness and death. It translates into 76,000 maternal and 500,000 infant deaths every year globally. To highlight and create awareness of the condition and its global impact on the lives of mothers, babies and families, the 37 Military Hospital, along with its partners, have organized a forum to that effect. The Director General of the Ghana AIDS Commission, Mrs. Dorothea Obri, said women predisposed to preeclampsia must check their organs when they are pregnant.
The protocol for antenatal clinics based on detecting preeclampsia, as we were told in our student days, include checking the blood pressure, urine for proteins, and liver and kidney function tests, and weight monitoring. All these can help detect the onset of preeclampsia. And it's recommended that this protocol should be followed regularly during antenatal visits, which should be 4 weekly till 30 weeks, 2 weekly from 30 to 36 weeks, and weekly from 36 weeks till term.
The Greater Accra Regional Director of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Linda Van Otu, said even though the cause of the condition is not known, women must regularly seek antenatal care.
It's been very difficult to find the cause, although there are some risk factors. One of them is that the person is too young. That's why it can happen in a very young girl who becomes pregnant. Or if somebody is too grown, it can also happen. Then we can also have it in people who have pre-existing conditions. For example, if somebody had hypertension before she became pregnant, if the person had diabetes or some other diseases before the pregnancy, if the person is too big, too fat, or if the person has multiple pregnancies, which means that the person is carrying twins or triplets, that kind of thing, then that is also a possibility. If she gains too much weight during the pregnancy, that is also a risk factor. So there are risk factors, but the good thing is that when you go to the hospital and you are pregnant, we check your blood pressure. They also check your urine to find out whether there are proteins in the urine. Once we find this, then it means that we have to watch you carefully and monitor so that you don't develop preeclampsia and eclampsia. So there are ways of managing them.
Stakeholders in the health sector appealed to the government to prioritize the awareness of the condition and help provide basic and clinical research to advance medical understanding and healthcare practices. Preeclampsia Day is celebrated on May 22 annually to create awareness about the condition. This year's Preeclampsia Day is on the theme, Be Prepared Before Lightning Strikes.
And that's it for health. Coming up is the international news.
Hello, good evening. Let's talk sports. I'm Theophilus Sampa. The World Rugby Council has approved the application by the Ghana Rugby Football Union as full member union. This development brings to total 104 full members and 17 associates. The president of the Ghana Rugby Football Union, Mr. Herbert Mensah, described the announcement as significant. Has Ghana really been officially accepted as a member of the World Rugby Union?
We have, Manu. You're seeing Gosport and people put out tweets today congratulating Ghana. We have been officially made full rugby members. It's an extraordinary achievement for all Ghanaians. When you do something, you don't do it for yourself, you do it for Mother Ghana. So Ghana needs to be proud, not because we are the best in the world, we're not, but the fact that we've been accepted at the top level in terms of being full rugby members. That means we have undergone compliance at that level. You therefore have to do things according to law, rugby law, in terms of how we run our associations, how we audit our books, how we run our teams, how we provide Medicare. The teams have gone through medical training for concussion tests, for this, for that. We've got people involved in getting into rugby programs, teaching the children. We've gone across the board and we have complied. They have watched us and complied in record time. Becoming World Rugby full members and having won our zonal league and going up to a higher league means we've got a way to go. But we're now moving out of where we were, where it was just for fun, and taking it a lot more seriously. Once you maintain compliance, once you're getting into rugby, once you're following everything that you're supposed to do, if you were a tier 1 country, a top level country, then we start getting available, we become eligible to training grants, coaching grants, a lot of different things that come into helping in terms of governance and so forth. So I expect by 2018, 2019, that to happen because we've just been approved now, so nothing will happen this year. But going into the future, that will happen. And I think the time is coming that we must go to Congress. I want to call an early Congress and for us to be re-elected. So if you don't have confidence in the presidency, I'm very difficult, I'm very clear and focused. I have no problem with standing down for somebody else to do that job.
Let's talk football now, where rejuvenated Immigration Ladies football team came from behind to draw 1-1 with four-time champions of the National Women's Football League, Hazakes Ladies. The encounter was one of the top of the table clash in the Southern Zone. The National Women's Football League entered match day 5 at the weekend. The Dansomanka Randolph Park hosted the top of the table clash in the Southern Zone. It was between the rejuvenated Immigration Ladies in their traditional green and yellow jersey and four-time champions of the National Women's Football League, secondly Hazakes Ladies. Last season, Immigration recorded their first win against the former champions, beating them in the FA Cup tie as well as in their home game. Hazakes, who are yet to hit their form this season, were shocked last weekend when they lost at home by a lone goal to Lady Strikers, a result that saw them drop from the top spot to 4th place. Hence, they need to up their game if they are to recover. It was the visitors that opened the scoring in the second half through Amabani Apia. Immigration pushed for the equalizer. Their efforts paid off as they scored through substitute Anita Redumenta. Immigration tried to squeeze in a second to pick all 3 points at stake, but time was not on their side. The encounter ended 1-1. There were mixed reactions from the coaches.
I think we should have won this match. And when we're coming, we say we're coming to win because last week we lost our match at home. And we were determined to come and then get the 3 points. But, our opponents too, they are playing home and I don't think they are an easy team to play with. Yeah, they are a good side and it's okay. We are rebuilding, so you shouldn't expect too much from us. But we are determined to still beat everybody and top our group.
No, football normally, either we win, you lose, or you draw. We went to police, we beat them. So we can go to Samira and beat them. So expect a win next week. If they want to place a respectable position, either we win or maybe second, because last year we did not play well. Our position for the past 3 seasons, we've been suffering for relegation. So this time my target is either second or take the league.
Here are results of other matches played. In the Southern Zone, Sea Lions 1, Police Ladies 0, Holy Royals 0, Lady Strikers 3, Soccer Intellectuals 1, Samaria Ladies 2, Immigration Ladies 1, Hazakes 1. In the Northern Zone, Real Upper Ladies 0, Ashtown Ladies 0, Lepo Ladies 1, Northern Ladies 1, Kumasi Sports Academy 2, Fabulous Ladies 0, and Pemdakwa 2, Prison Ladies 0. The teams now turn their attention on the start of the Sanford World Clinic FA Cup round of 32 clash at the weekend. Let's talk athletics now, where 4 Ghanaian track and field athletes, sprinter Emmanuel Dasso, Janet Amponsa, Alexa Mankwa, and triple jumper Nadia Ikeafo made the entry requirement for the 2017 IAAF Championship to be staged in London. The 2017 IAAF World Championship will be the 16th edition and is scheduled to be held in August this year between the 4th to the 13th in London, United Kingdom. So far, 4 Ghanaian athletes based in Europe have made the qualifying times to participate at the championship. The athletes include triple jumper Nadia Eke. She set a new national record in France. Nadia made 13.93 meters. Sprinter Emmanuel Dasso sealed qualification after placing second in the Conference United States of America USA Outdoor Championship in El Paso, Texas. Dasso placed second to Emmanuel Cole, having clocked a lifetime best of 45.43 seconds in 400-meter race. On another positive note, Janet Amponsa also sealed qualification to the 2017 IAAF Championship with a scintillating performance at the Conference USA Championship in El Paso, Texas. The Ghanaian sprinter placed first after clocking 22.90 seconds. The latest addition is middle distance runner Alexa Mankwa. He set a national record of 1 minute 44.80 seconds to win the Georgia Meet of Champions in USA. Amankwa, 25, dipped below the 1.45.90 seconds entry standard to claim his ticket for the championship. The Ghanaian-born athlete won by a whole second ahead of Drew Windle, who finished 1 minute 45.02 seconds, and Eric Sorinsky, who finished 1 minute 45.23 seconds. So for sports.
Performing Arts Department of the University of Ghana has organized this year's radio, television, video and film student short film screenings. The program was held at the Efuati Sutherland Drama Studio in Legon.
But Papa, I did better than the second thing. Yes, you did better than your sister Ajo.
At the event, short-skit films that were written and directed by the School of Performing Arts students were premiered.
You want me to lose this baby too, eh? Or you want to help those nurses to kill me?
I'm so sorry, Auntie Lady. Forgive me, sir.
A lecturer at the Department of Theatre Arts, Madame Adelina Rosino, said the aim of the film screening is to help bring out hidden talents and to enable them learn and acquire more skills.
For me as the course lecturer, I think the main thing is to enable our students to be able to tell stories. I think it's very important that we in Ghana are able to tell our own stories. The screenplay is the foundation of any good film, and so we spend a lot of time studying that, writing specifically for the screen. How are they able then to translate the screenplay into film language?
Some students who had short films played on screens said it was a great opportunity for them to bring out their hidden and untold stories.
It wasn't easy from writing to shooting. I couldn't have done it without our lecturers. They've been so supportive, and she was there at every point in time to make sure that your ideas were going right.
My short film is titled The Mob. The Mob because I explore homosexuality in the Ghanaian context. I spoke to a couple of my colleagues who were willing, no matter the subject matter, and they help. Also, I faced challenges outside shooting. People didn't understand what was going on, but in the end it was good.
Ridomil Gold, mixing and dosing. Using Ridomil Gold between May and August will protect your cocoa farm from black pod and other diseases so that you can get a good harvest. Before you use Ridomil Gold, wear your protective clothing. Overalls, Wellington boots, hat, gloves, and nose mask. Half fill your Matabi knapsack sprayer with water. Add 100 gram sachet of Ridomil Gold. Then add more water until the tank is completely full. Close the lid and shake well to mix the Ridomil Gold properly. Remember, you should use 100 gram sachet of Ridomil Gold per tankful of water and 600 gram sachet of Ridomil Gold for every acre of cocoa farm.
On a sunny day, make good use of your sunglasses. That's all we have for you today in terms of the weather forecast, brought to you by RMJ Ghana Limited.
And that's all in the news for now. Thank you so much for watching.
We are back at 10 p.m. with the late edition. Until then, have a very good evening.
Good evening.